and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, students and scholars, teachers and trainers, professors, professionals, officials, listener, learners. I welcome the most honorable President Counsellor Modi ji. I welcome respected doctors and directors. I welcome honorable ministers and managers. I welcome honorable advocates, retirees, administrators and advisors. It is very nice time, nice place, nice section. Today we are defining, explaining importance of English. What is language-rich classroom? Let us discuss the importance of language-rich classroom. In language-rich classroom, environment
The Bluetooth device is ready to pair. The Bluetooth device is ready to pair.
A language-rich classroom environment is one. A language-rich classroom environment is one in which students are exposed deliberately and recurrently to high quality verbal input among peers and adults, and in which adult child verbal interactions are characterized by high level of adult responsiveness. For each classroom for which a language-rich environment is proposed, one team should be organized. Although teams in a school can work together, action plans needs to be individualized for each classroom. The team should include everyone who is involved in education and intervention for children in the classroom, including the class teacher, the classroom assistant, the speech language pathologist, other relevant specialists. The team should also include one or more parents and a program administrator. The facilitator of the team should be the classroom teacher. The key to creating and implementing language-rich classroom environment is infusing the classroom with rich adult-child interactions. One teacher and one assistant cannot do this job for 15 to 20 children. The subsequent steps in the action plan are undertaken by the entire team with the understanding that each team member has made a commitment to being actively involved in the classroom. In creating language-rich classroom, the physical environment provides ample support for facilitating children's exposure to diverse aspects of language, content, form and use. The classroom should be organized to emphasize open space, specific areas should be clearly identified throughout the classroom. For example, library, grammatical play areas, a variety of material should be clustered conceptually or schematically. Dramatic play settings should be available in each classroom of particular importance in developing language-rich classroom environment are literary related artifacts as well as real-world props and materials. Literary related artifacts are materials that are associated with written language. They include writing utensils, writing media, and various types of printed materials. Literary related artifacts help children make connection between oral and written language. In every language-rich classroom, literary artifacts provide children with an endless supply of familiar and unfamiliar linguistic forms, contents, and use. A language-rich classroom environment must involve adults who deliberately learn language simulation strategies when conversing with children, conversation between adults and children that are characterized by adults' use of waiting, pausing, confirming, imitating, extending, labeling, open questioning, and scripting are the core of the classroom, core of the language-rich classroom. What is the importance of language-rich classroom? Language-rich classroom government emphasize children's acquisition of language through their interactions with both peers and adults. Students experience high quality linguistic input both passively and actively within the classroom. They are exposed to language throughout the day in diverse contexts and interactions. For language acquisition, children requires opportunities to use their language when they interact with others. Such types of opportunities are provided to the students in language-rich classrooms. When talking with children, adults in language-rich classroom make knowledgeable choices in the words, grammar, and sounds so that they can stimulate children's ongoing achievement of new skills. Adults provide children with meaningful variation in the language to which they are exposed. In language-rich classroom, repetition is valued. It is an integral part of the classroom routine. Children receive multiple opportunities to experience specific linguistic concept in diverse contexts of use, and classroom experiences are organized to foster repetition. Adults' language in the classroom is characterized by diverse content, form, and use. Content, form, and use are the three interrelated elements of a language that form the complex whole of oral language. Content consists of words that are used and the concepts that are expressed. Form refers to the way that word structure and sentence structure are organized grammatically and phonologically. Use refers to the ways that language is used in functional context to achieve social purpose. Children's content, form, and use achievements directly reflect their experiences with language. Thus, exposing children to language in these three areas is an important feature of the language-rich classroom. Language is one of the unique possessions of human beings. Human society is totally unthinkable without language. It is the only means of communication of thoughts and ideas either through speech or writing. It is the life and blood of our culture. It is the life and blood of our culture and an essential part of human life. Man alone is endowed with the faculty of speech language. It is a divine gift of God to man. It is a divine gift of God to man, which distinguishes man from animals. It is through language that a man develops his personality and can enrich the society in which he lives. Language is a means of communicating thoughts. Language is a social activity rather than a means of individual self-expression. Oxford Dictionary defines language as words and methods of combining them for the expression and expansion of thoughts. Sweet defines language is the expression of ideas by means of which speech sounds are combined into words. Words are combined into sentences, and combination of sentences gives answering to ideas and thoughts. According to Bloch and Traeger, language is a system of language is a system of arbitrary vocal symbols by means of which a social group cooperates. In the words of Gray, language is the entire complex of phenomena associated with vocal and auditory communication of emotions and ideas. Idiolect. What is idiolect? The members of a speech community have extremely uniform attitude to their language, but their actual individual language behavior is very variable. It is true that no two people speak the same variety of a language. Each human speaker has his own idiosyncratic and indexical features. His speech is different in some degree from every other speaker of his language. This language of the individual is called his idiolect. Idiolect is an individual's personal variety of the community language system. What is dialect? Language is a socially learned behavior, yet it is shaped creatively by individuals. It is a social aspect of human life. It is acquired and not an innate skill. Consequently, the variation in language behavior are but natural. In fact, each language has a network of varieties within it. We have varieties of English, Hindi, Tamil, and so on. Language varies along three different parameters: space, time, and social class. People of different social, economic, occupational, or cultural groups in the same community show variation in speech. A regional, temporal, and social varieties within a single language is called a dialect. A dialect differs in pronunciation, vocabulary, and to some extent in grammar from other dialects of the same language. A language is a complex network of its dialect, just as a A dialect is a complex network of ideolects. Standard language. What is standard language? Language exists in the form of its dialects. Any dialect is powerful enough to meet all the demands that are made on it. Thus, one dialect of a language comes to enjoy a special prestige in the community as a whole. This dialect is often regarded as standard language. For example, RP of English is usually the most widely accepted variety of that language. The reasons for its wide acceptance may vary from political to economic, commercial, social, historical, and cultural. However, the significant point is that it is the most widely accepted variety of the language. Any deviation from the usage in this dialect is considered substandardness. Substandardness. All other regional and social dialects of a language are no less organized than the socialized, the so-called standard language. What is communicative function? Man is a social animal. He has a society in which he lives. Society needs certain norms. These norms require discussion and interaction among its members. For setting them, the sharing of ideas is called as communication. For this communication, language is the first requirement. Communication may not be meaningful without proper, appropriate language. Communication can be in written form and in oral form. Communicative function of language may also be called informative function. All information is communicated to the masses through either in written form or in oral form. The print media, for example, newspaper, magazine, textbooks, and journal books communicate information in the written form. The TV, computer, internet, movies, and radio are providing information orally and visually. What is the expressive function? Man is very talkative. He is in the habit of talking. His mind is always thinking. Whatever ideas come to his mind, he wants to share it with somebody. Language is the outlet for pent up feelings. Therefore, language helps one to express one's thoughts, emotions, ideas, and feelings. It also helpful to evoke similar feelings among the readers. Constant expression of one's thoughts improve the language skill. The teacher is always expressing his knowledge to the students to have a desirable change in the behavior of the students. Similarly, students require a good knowledge of the language to express them accurately and correctly. When a prestige dialect of a language is accepted and emulated by the speakers of other dialects, it becomes the standard language. The literary variety or the written variety may also be considered The standard variety of BBC English is considered to be the standard English language. What are the scopes of language? Language makes existence of society possible. Language makes it possible to understand the speaker. Language delimits social group. Language connects one with the external world. What is language acquisition? In production of speech sounds, all humans are physiologically alike. Children learn the language of those who bring them up from infancy. In most cases, these are the biological parents, especially the mother and the environment they are brought up. Adopted infants acquire the language of their adoptive parents. Speaking and learning as a primary means of communication have a number of advantages. Speech does not depend on daylight or on mutual visibility. It can operate in all directions over reasonably wide areas. It can be adjusted in loneliness to cope with distance. Language is learned by conscious efforts. The child knows no language. He is exposed to sounds around him. The child makes various isolated sounds. He imitates the behavior of those who are important for him or her. He begins with sounds like Baba, Papa, Dada, etc. Then he imitates other speech sounds. Gradually, he learns the words and grammatical constructions of his native language. It is through conscious effort that a child acquires language. Language plays an important role in human life. It is a means of expression. In the absence of language, the human life would be quite different. Language plays many functions. Expressive function, one is expressive function, two is informative function, three is directive function, four is it helps in international trade and industry. It leads to better understanding between different nations of the world. The latest and up-to-date information in the field of science and technology is available in English only. It helps in bringing people of different nations in closer contact. English is the language which links together different states of India. People living in different states speak their own regional language. By using English, the leaders from different states can convey their thoughts to one another. In the absence of this language, they find it difficult to share their views with one another. English also links us with the outside world. Thus, we find that the use of English in our country has been a unifying factor. Every language should be taught in the natural way. Thus, listening and speaking should precede reading and writing. The teacher should lay more emphasis on listening and speaking. Then the learners will automatically be good at reading and writing of the language. This person rightly suggests the very first lesson in a foreign language ought to be devoted to initiating the people into the world of the sounds. Multilingualism means the state where a number of languages are spoken in different parts of a country. India is highly pluralistic. It is multilingual, multicultural, and multireligious. It is estimated that there are about 300 languages and dialects in India. Different groups exploit people and build walls around their languages. They ought to have emerged as nationalism, but they have been turned into fundamentalism and chauvinism. The goals of teaching the first language, teaching and learning how to read and write, teaching and learning the standard language. The child may have learned a dialect used in his or her home, social environment, and its varieties. Teaching and learning the literature of the first language and through it the culture, literary heritage, and value system of the language community. Language is the associate language in India. English is not immediately interwoven with the culture of the Indian subcontinent as Hindi or Bengali or Tamil are. The rural texture has not taken English as part of its mental makeup. Still, English is different from French or German or Italian on the one hand, and Hindi or Gujarati on the other. English has a unique status in India. It is neither Indians nor foreign. That is why the Constitution treats it as an associate language. The mind of a learner of a second language is not a clean state. He has learned his mother tongue. He knows a lot about language that helps him or her in learning of other languages. Learning a second language is the gravitational pull of the first language is one of the factors, perhaps an important one, that is responsible for the mistakes made in learning a second language. It is because there is no one-to-one correspondence between the categories in any two languages. The pull of the mother tongue operates at different levels: sound levels, grammatical, lexical, and cultural levels. To enable the students to understand English when spoken, what are the four general aims of teaching English? One is to enable the students to understand English when spoken, to enable them to speak English, to enable them to read English, to enable them to write English. These aims correspond to the four language skills or abilities like listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Listening and reading are passive or receptive skills, whereas speaking and writing are active or productive skills. The right age for beginning the teaching of English is 5 or 6 years of the children because the introduction of English language at elementary stage helps the students in acquisition of such a vocabulary at initial stage. At this stage, their grasping power is at maximum. Therefore, English language should be introduced at elementary level. In the 1960s, it was felt that grammar translation method is grammar translation method as well as the direct method of teaching English lack the scientific application of any linguistic or psychological theory. It was felt that a systematic formation of principles should be made to guide language teaching An American applied linguist, Edward Anthony, proposed a three-level discrimination in 1963. He defined the term approach, method, and technique according to him. An approach is a set of correlative assumptions dealing with the nature of language, for example, linguistic, and the nature of language teaching and learning. It describes the nature of the subject matter to be taught. It is more theoretical. It forms the basic of any method to be formulated. An approach is axiomatic. It is a set of basic assumptions and beliefs about language and language teaching or learning. A method is an overall plan for the orderly presentation of language material. No part of the method evolved contradicts the principles of the approach on which it is based. In fact, a method is more procedural. Within any approach, there can be several methods. In fact, methods is the level at which planning takes place to put a theory into practice. A technique represents implementation. It is the actual implementation of a method in the classroom. It is a particular way of doing things to accomplish an immediate objective. Techniques must be consistent with a method, which in turn must be in harmony with an approach. Let's take a break, please. The behavioristic approach to language learning grew out of the belief that students learn a second language by being taught to produce the correct response to the appropriate stimulus. The students would then receive either instant positive or instant negative reinforcement in the shape of either correction or praise from the teacher. This is said to be the natural process of language learning, which a language teaching program should try to stimulate For the teacher,
The Bluetooth device is ready to pair.
the students would then receive either instant positive or instant negative reinforcement in the shape of either correction or praise from the teacher. This is shared to be the natural process of language learning, which a language teaching program should try to stimulate. For the teacher, language is learned only through use or practice. The more the learner is exposed to use, the more the learner is exposed to the use, the better the chances of learning it. English is learned in a better way through practice. The production of language depends on the situation, which makes its use necessary. Language cannot be taught in diverse from situation. The teacher has to introduce each new pattern of language in a meaningful situation. English is learned in better way if the proper situations are created for its learning. Producing the correct linguistic response also requires effort. If the learner is not called upon to make this effort, there is no learning. Producing the correct response also requires attention. Attention is bound to slacken after a time to prolong. So prolonged practice is less useful than spaced practice. The spoken language comes earlier than the written, and the receptive means passive experience of language is necessary before any productive or active use can begin. Learning takes place faster if the correct response towards stimulus is confirmed. The learner must know at once if his effort is right or wrong. Learning is a skill faster if the learner is placed through the situation where he can produce only the correct response. Each incorrect response builds up a faculty behavior pattern which interfere with the process of conditioning. Every new item learned must be reinforced by further practice before further learning begins. Most of the methods used during the past 70 years for teaching language made use of these assumptions from behaviorism. They emphasize repeated but spaced practice of language material in meaningful situation, in imitation of a given model. first orally and then writing. Approaching English on the basis of selected structures is called structural approach. It is called so because the main emphasis is laid on the mastery of structures or pattern of sentences and phrases, and also on the special features of the language which help in the construction of a sentence, such as word order, structural words, and a few inflections in English. In this approach, the use of mother tongue is allowed at the initial stages, and that tool for explaining a situation when some sentence is to be practiced. The learner are given drill of the structures till they are able to use them automatically without straining their minds. By teaching different structures, the aim is to develop certain skills. The different skills are ability to understand the spoken language, speak the language, read the language, write the language. Thus, in structural approach, the emphasis is laid on the acquisition of different skills. The person learning the language is able to acquire it through situations. Evie Gattenby says, first follow nature is good piece of advice for the language teacher, as nature does not show us a sure way to success. It is only common cause to follow her methods. Where they are followed today in the schools of the world, there is very little failure to learn a language. According to Menon and Patel, the objectives of structural approach are to lay the foundation of English, establishing through drill and repetition about 275 graded structures, to enable the students to attain mastery over an essential vocabulary of about 3,000 root words for active use, to use the four fundamental skills, namely understanding, speaking, reading and writing in the order named, to correlate the teaching of grammar and composition with the reading lessons, to lay proper emphasis on the oral approach, active methods, and the contamination of formal grammar for its own sake. Strictly speaking, structural approach is not a method of teaching. An approach tells us what to teach, whereas a method tells us how to teach. Structural approach only tells us what to teach and not how to teach. We can use any method to teach structure. As Professor C.S. Bhandari says, it is not proper and correct to call the structural approach a method of teaching. It is not method, it is an approach. Any method can be used with it. The arrangement of words to form sentences in English is very important. The meaning of an utterance may completely change because of the different word order. Because the word order in English is fixed. If we change this word order, either the meaning is changed or we get wrong sentences. The different arrangements or patterns of words are called structures. Structures may be complete utterance or they may form part of a large pattern. Structures are of four types. One is sentence pattern. For example, the boys played hockey. What are you reading? Here is a clock on the wall. To is formula. These are the groups of words used regularly on certain occasions like good morning, how do you do? Three is phrase, patterns, on the table, at the station, in the garden. Four is idioms. These are the groups of words that must be taught as a whole and not as separate words like to thick and thin, a white elephant, to blow hot and cold. What are the principles of structural approach? According to F.G. French, the principles of structural approach, importance of the pupil's activity rather than activity of the teacher, importance of the speech or formally fixing words, importance of the information, importance of the formation of the language habit to arrange words in suitable English sentence patterns in order to replace the sentence patterns of the child's mother tongue. General principles of structural approach. One feature is formulation of language habits. The structural approach takes care of the fact that learning of a language is a habit formation process. Here, a lot of practice and drill work is given to the learners. As a result, the structures are well fixed up in the minds of the learners since their language learning is based on the principle of habit formation. Everything becomes natural with the language learner. What is the importance of speech? In learning of a language, speech is more important than reading and writing. In structural approach, speech is given more importance. It is the sheet anchor to this approach. Therefore, this principle is very sound as it lays the foundation of language learning. What is pupil activity? Number three feature is pupil activity. In the structural approach of teaching English, more emphasis is laid on pupil activity rather than the activity of the teacher. In this approach, the students cannot remain passive learners. Mastery of structure. In this approach, emphasis is laid on the mastery of structure. Here, one structure is taken up as a teaching point. It's listening, speaking, reading and writing practice is given to learners step by step. The more the oral practice is given to the learners, better would be the result. Thus, here emphasis should be laid on all the core skills. It will ensure mastery of structures and the mastery of structures results in effective learning of the language. Teaching one item of language at a time. In structural approach, only one item is taken up at a time and is taught to the students. In this way, the students are able to grasp it well. A new structure is taught by using the vocabulary already learned by the students. The second structure is introduced when the learners acquire mastery over the first structure. Situational teaching. To teaching, situational teaching, to teach structure, situations are created. All types of teaching materials can be helpful in creating situations. Objects, pictures, flashcards, actions, gestures, drawing on the board and verbal context also help in creating situations for structured teaching. It makes learning meaningful and interesting. Principle of selection of the structures. The selection of the structures can be done One is principle of simplicity. The structures which are simple and easy to learn should be selected first. The simplicity of a structure depends on its form and meaning. For example, this is a pencil, easy. No sooner did he reach the station than the train left the station. Difficult. It is difficult. Principles of usefulness. Some structures are more useful to the learner than the others. The structures and sentence patterns which we use daily in the form of speech, reading, listening, and writing are selected first. Principle of productivity. The sentence patterns which act as a model and from which many more sentences are made should be selected. One structure leading to other or helping in framing many other similar sentences enhance knowledge of the language. For example, he has to go. A number of sentences can be formed on this pattern. She has to go, Mohan has to go, the teacher has to go, etc. Do the needful. A number of sentences can be formed on this pattern. Principle of teachability. Structures which are easy to teach in the classroom situation with the available resources should be selected. For example, the structure I bought this book for 10 rupees can be taught easily, but he comes late every day is not so easy. Principle of realistic situation. The structures should be the structures should be such which can be easily demonstrated in a realistic situation. For example, girls are writing is more easily teachable in a real classroom situation than the structures. A dog has been running on the road for 2 hours. Principle of flexibility and occurrence. Those structures should be selected in the teaching process which frequently occur in day-to-day life of pupils. Classroom objects like table, chair, fan, etc. Similarly, structures having flexibility of application should be selected first, for example, by her, by him, by God, etc. The structure should be easy to be drilled and practiced. Principle of gradation means the gradation can be done. Principle of usefulness. The structures which are more in use should be graded in initial numbers. The structure should be arranged according to their relative usefulness at the various stages of the courses. Principle of simplicity. Structures which are easy to teach in classroom situations, which direct method of teaching should be given preference in teaching early. Difficulty level. Structures should be arranged according to their relative difficulty from the point of view of similarly with the student's mother tongue. Principles of teachability. According to this principle, the structure should be arranged in their easier manner so that they can be taught and learned easily. Sita is singing beautifully. Sita is singing this beautiful song in an impressive mood of delight. Therefore, structure should be graded from the point of view of their difficulty level. What are the advantages of the structural approach? What are the advantages of the structural approach? In this approach of teaching English, the students remain active throughout the process of teaching learning. It helps the learners to have good pronunciation wherever a student mispronounces a word. There is immediate check by the teacher. It helps the students to acquire fluency in their spoken English. It can be adopted at all stages of education. It is based on constant drill work. As a result of it, the difficulties of students are removed on the spot. It is situational teaching, where teacher creates meaningful situations by using verbal and non-verbal situations. It is based on scientific principle. It simplifies the language material by means of proper deduction, gradation, and systematic representation. This approach provides road to reading and writing of English by first teaching English through oral work. It helps in providing more command over the language as it makes use of psychological urges of the child. All the skills of learning a language are equally emphasized in structural approach. It creates appropriate environment. It creates appropriate environment for the learning of a foreign language. It utilizes the pupil's knowledge and experience in his mother tongue. It deals with teaching one item at one time. With the help of structural approach, students can gain mastery over structures, as this approach makes the child get mastery over 250 fundamental structures or sentence patterns which constitute the frame of the language. What are the demerits of structural approach? One is this approach is very time consuming. Since the syllabus happens to be bulky, but both the students and teacher wish to complete the syllabus in the stipulated time. This leaves no time for practicing structures. The drill work done in structural approach is not always interesting. As a result, it does not lead to habit formation of students. Sometimes it is mechanical and very dull. Structural approach cannot be used successfully in classrooms which are overcrowded. In addition to this, many times teachers are overburdened with extra work. They are not able to do odd work and drill work. It requires talented and skillful teachers which are very difficult to find. This is not suitable for teaching of higher classes. as repetition and reading is more suitable for low classes. In this approach, the only stress is laid on speech, while it neglects reading, writing, and vocabulary expansion. Instructional approach, the center of interest is the material, not the child, thus the approach ignores the learners. The teacher fails to create the proper situations for better learning of the students. Many teachers of English believe that like direct method, it is also suitable and applicable only to the lower classes. The situations for teaching through the structural approach can be created by using actual objects. We can teach structures by showing actual objects inside and outside the classroom. We can teach structure like this is a window, this is a door, Ram is here and Mohan is there. Through gestures and actions for creating certain situations, actions have to be performed. It should be done carefully by the teacher so as to create the right type of situation. For example, I am reading, I am writing, he is standing. For all these sentences, situations are created by performing action and thus they are taught to the students. By using models, charts and pictures, they are certain things which in actual form cannot be brought to the classroom. In such cases, models, charts or pictures can be made use of. For example, elephant, camel, lion, etc. cannot be actually brought into the classroom. So we show their models or pictures and thus teach the class about those things. What are the verbal situations? In some cases, physical situation cannot be created by using any of the above shared devices. There comes the need of creating verbal situations. Verbal situation is nothing but creation of a situation by speaking something. Suppose the teacher is to teach, he is shutting the door. She comes late every day. For the first sentence, physical situation can be created in the classroom. But in the case of second sentence, verbal situation will have to be created. The teacher will speak a number of sentences like the school opened at 9 a.m. She came at 9:30 a.m. today. She came at 9:15 a.m. yesterday. She comes late every day. For teaching the word forget, verbal situations can be created. The teacher asks the name of some students, Rani, Shilpa, Meena, etc. Then he speaks by pointing to ask the students one by one. Your name is this, your name is this, your name is Veena, your name is Sheila, your name is Meena, your name is Dash. I forget. This verbal situation makes clear the meaning of the word forget. Action change. Action change. Through action change, the same structure can be drilled very well. For example, a number of continuous actions may be performed by the teacher and he may speak, I am shutting the door, I am opening the door, I am shutting the window, I am opening the window. Then the pupils perform those variations one by one and speak out whatever they are doing. By using substitution tables, by using substitutional tables, the teacher can prepare this substitution table by taking up one structure. We can also involve the students for its preparation. With the help of this substitution table, the structure is writing a letter can be taught. The learners can be enabled to speak as many as 16 different sentences which are basically of the same pattern. FG French had recommended the following types of sentence pattern at the early stage during the first 3 years of learning English. One is simple two-part pattern, such as he reads, she plays, Hari waves. Simple two-part patterns. Simple three-part patterns, he is eating, she is reading, they are swimming. Simple four-part pattern, I gave Mohan a book. She offered him a job. He told me to come tomorrow. The negative form of pattern, he did not sing. You were not playing. They are not reading. Interrogative form, did he sleep? Did he sleep? Was he playing? Have you read a book? Imperative patterns means order. Do not spit here. Sit here silently. Go away. Imperative patterns or request or command. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your time. Bring me a glass of water. Open your book at page 20. Hidden subject patterns using there and it. There are 3 colleges in our town. It is a good watch. There were 500 students in the meeting. How is structural approach and improvement upon the direct method of teaching English? The direct method of teaching English has been developed as a reaction to grammar translation method of teaching English. Its basic principle is that pupils should think directly in a foreign language. The structural approach does not differ much from the direct method. There are a number of similarities between these two. Both emphasize oral work, more pupil activity, inhibition of mother tongue, and incidental teaching of grammar. Structural approach does not put restrictions on the use of mother tongue in the classroom. In this way, structural approach is an improvement on the teaching of English through direct method. In fact, structural approach is a practical way of teaching grammar. In it, the pupils are active learners. They are provided with more opportunities of expressing their ideas and feelings. And if they are taught by structural approach, they will acquire more fluency in speech than those who are taught by direct method. Thus, it is used by all the grades, whereas direct method is not suitable for all students. Thus, structural approach is an important over improvement over direct method. Last but not the least, I would like to thank all my listener, learner, brother, sister, teacher, trainer, professor, professionals, officer, officials, respected doctors and directors, honorable minister manager, honorable advocates, advertiser, administrators and advisors. Thank you. Nice to see all of you. Thank you very much.